Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am reviewing the second entry in the Remarried Empress series. This is what the cover looks like. The original story is by Alphatart, I believe it is a webtoon, and the adaptation is by HereLee with the art by SUMPUL. So we have a beautiful cover, and I have read volume 1 obviously, and review for that is on my channel if you need it, but we are just going to dive into volume 2. So we are following Empress Navier and Emperor Sovieshu and their complicated relationship as Emperor Sovieshu has taken a mistress, Rashta, who's very quietly, or maybe not so quietly, scheming to upstage the Empress, and the Empress is dealing with her newfound connection to Prince Henry, a visiting prince to her court. So we have a trifecta of relationships to follow throughout this book, and it is very interesting and I have been loving it. So there's 3 key relationships to follow, and I'm going to go through each one and kind of what happens in this series, and I think addressing each relationship one by one probably makes the most sense, even though the relationships are woven throughout this book. So first we have Rashta and Emperor Sovieshu. So Rashta is the mistress that the emperor has taken, and this is a totally normal thing in this fantasy realm, and I think this is also something that we commonly see when we have marriages between emperors and empresses, where their marriage is more for the state, for the realm, than it is necessarily for each other and their personal love and connection to one another. This is what marriage was for a long time, especially when you were a princess or a prince. You were expected to marry for what's good for the family and what's good for the realm. So they were married, but they had a solid marriage. They were friendly towards one another and respected each other, and the emperor decided to take a mistress. This in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. This is something that usually is communicated because neither one is in the marriage for love or excitement, and the idea is the empress could also take someone on the side. But the mistress that the emperor takes, Rashta, is definitely not doing things conventionally. She's not really respecting the fact that she's the mistress and the empress is the empress, and she's definitely trying to subvert the empress. She's trying to move ahead of her position, which is not always well received. And I don't think even necessarily her aims to secure her position in court, I don't really perceive badly. It's the cruelty and the very cruel nature that I feel like she secretly displays while acting very cute that really bothers me. To me, Rashta is not a likable character, and I feel like she's manipulating in a way Sovieshu. She has Sovieshu like in the palm of her hand. He is clay in her hands. He will do anything she wants, including doing things that aren't necessarily good for the relationship that he probably needs to keep together a little bit for the good of the realm, even if he is not necessarily attracted to or in love with the empress. So during this volume, Rashta reveals that she does have a slave background. So she was a runaway slave, which we can talk about the ethics of slave ownership, but this is a fantasy realm and that is what it is. She ran away, and this is something that could reflect badly if other people in the court knew about this, so she's working to keep it under wraps. However, the person she ran away from appears at court and also reveals information that isn't fully explained to the reader, but makes it think that maybe Rashta also abandoned a child, maybe a child she thought was deceased, but may not be deceased, and she quickly becomes subject to a blackmailing scheme. So that explains her desire to really secure her spot in court. I think that explains that very well. She has a very compelling reason. She came from a very terrible situation, a very terrible background, and she doesn't want to go back. But I would argue that you can't transfer cruelty. So just because you were in a very difficult situation and people treated you poorly doesn't mean that you get to treat other people poorly. And Rashta has kind of turned and started inflicting, in my opinion, cruelty towards other people in the court, either an attempt to secure her position or not, and you can't do that. Just because someone treated you horribly doesn't give you the right to turn around and treat someone else horribly and then say, well, look, someone treated me horribly, so I can treat you horribly. That's not how it works. You are not culpable for things that people do to you, but you're culpable for your own actions that you inflict upon someone else. So Rashta, in my opinion, is still not a good person, but it does explain and give her reason for wanting to maintain her spot at court so badly, and mistresses are not very secure. So an empress is the empress. She has a role. She's part of the government. She's part of this reigning group of people who lead the realm. A mistress can be brought on and dismissed very easily at the whims of the person who they were brought on by. So it's a very precarious situation, so it does make sense that she wants to secure her spot. I also think there is a moment where the Emperor Sobieshu is at this cottage and the Empress is actually there with him because he requested just her, and he confesses that the mistress, while maybe being fun and exciting, does not provide a level of peace. He says he never feels at peace with her, and I think that is a very telling confession that maybe this isn't long for the making and Rashta's going to have to work hard if she wants to keep her position. Rashta's being blackmailed and that does seem like a bad situation, but Rashta's also a very cruel person, so it is kind of hard for me to find a lot of sympathy when she's hurting people very horribly in her own realm. So then we have the relationship between Navier and Henry. So Henry is the pen pal who is communicating with Navier via bird in the first volume. I actually totally missed that Navier can turn into the bird. I don't know why. It was very clearly shown in volume 1, so I'm not sure why it took me until volume 2 to figure that out. I think I'm just slow in a lot of regards when it comes to reading books and figuring out what's going on. It took me a long time to figure that out. Navier can turn into the bird, and he's been visiting and spending time with, Henry can turn into the bird and he's been going and spending time with Navier. So that's kind of an interesting side thing, and I think the relationship is deepening. Henry definitely has feelings for Navier, and I think Navier still is in this mindset that she wants to maintain the appearance of a good relationship with the Emperor, which is totally fine and I believe expected, but she also maybe has this opportunity to also take someone on the side. And what's annoying to me is Emperor Sobi, I have to back up. This is a known relationship. Like, if the Emperor can take a mistress, at least in this fantasy realm, the Empress can also take someone on the side as well. It's a known arrangement. You are married for the good of the realm. You can have your own personal life and your personal pleasure with whoever you would like privately and not flaunting it for everybody. That's the arrangement in this fantasy world. So those are the rules we're playing by. But the Emperor, while taking a mistress Rashta, seems very annoyed and very cruel and upset at the thought of his wife taking someone on the side. So it's like rules for thee but not for me sort of vibe, where it's like she has to, please stop fighting cats, where she has to obey different rules than he's holding himself to. Apologies for the cats, they were being loud. So then we have this relationship between the Emperor and the Empress where they need to be together for the good of the realm. And we definitely see this in a time when the Emperor relies on the Empress to lead a delegation. Now, I feel like maybe this is a setup for her to go away or for him to spend more time with the mistress, but I feel like there is a tacit level of understanding that he kind of relies on her to manage certain things. She does come from a family that kind of trains women to be empresses, or raises their women in such a way where they could be a good fit to be an empress, to lead a nation. So that aspect is there, and I think he kind of sees that he relies on her in a way that he can't rely on his mistress for things that are important to leading the realm. So they're still together. They're not anywhere near the divorce that was teased in volume 1, but it definitely seems interesting, and I feel like Rashta is doing a lot of bad things for the realm overall. I'm very excited to see the story advance in volume 2, and I'm actually interested in the different romance plots that are going on in this book. I'm not a huge reader of romance, so the fact that this romance book did hook me, did make me interested, is just really, really refreshing to see, and I think extra props need to go to the author for making me interested in a romance book. I'm very excited to see how this story continues to play out. I already have volume 3 on hold, so I will be getting that and reviewing that as soon as possible. However, I would love it if you leave your thoughts on this series in the comment section down below. I'm so excited to keep reading this, and I would love to hear from other people who are reading this series, what they thought about it, what they think about it, and yeah, just general thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.